slaves or free, we're all made to drink of one spirit. For the body is not one member, but many. If the foot says, because I am not a hand, I am not part of the body, it is not for this reason any less a part of the body. For if the ear says, because I'm not an eye, I am not part of the body, is it not for this reason that any less a part of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole body were hearing, where would the sense of smell be? But now God has placed the members, each one of them, in the body, just as He has desired. If they were all one member, where would the body be? But now there are many members, but one body. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, or the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, it is much truer that the members of the body, which seem to be weaker, are necessary, and that those of the members which we deem to be less honorable, on these we bestow more abundant honor, and less presentable members become even more presentable. Whereas our more presentable members have no need of it, but God has so composed the body, giving more abundant honor to the member which lacked, so that there may be no division in the body, that the members may have the same care for one another. That's important. So the members may have the same care for one another, and if one member suffers, all the members suffer, and if one member is honored, then all the members rejoice with it. So the important part of that whole deal is that we need each other. Okay, this thing we call a church is a body, and it's fit together. Okay, for a reason, and that means through all the generations. So we have to learn to get along. Now, I'm sure that the baby boomers are not crazy about some of the music that is played. Okay, the newfangled music, right? Okay. A lot of the millennials probably don't know some of those songs that we just played. Some of them older ones, they've never sung those. Okay, so they're not dear to their heart like they're dear to your heart. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we've got to learn to live together and work together. Okay. All right. What I want to do first is I want to see how many we got of each generation here, and so I don't think we have any of the ones before before 1924, right? I don't think there's anybody in here before that generation. So that's the GI generation, or as Dan Brokaw called them, the greatest generation, okay? They would be, there's not very many of them left, okay? And so we do have some members of the silent generation. I know my dad is one of those. Let's see. Trying to see up to 1945, from like 1924 to 45, I think is what it is. So we got two. Three? Okay, good. All right, we're going to hear from one of y'all in a minute. Okay, the next group. So we have three. I'm going to write this down real quick. No, I'm not. I'm going to put it right here. So we have three of the silent generation. How many baby boomers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I'm sorry. 1946 to 1964. 46 to 64. And I also want to say another thing real quick. Y'all keep your hands up, baby boomers. I know you're not that old to keep your hands up. All right. Some of these years vary a little bit, so this is just the one I got, okay? I've seen them vary as many as 5 years, all right? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I think I got 21, pretty close. Okay, so 21 of the baby boomers. Generation X, that is from 65 to 80. 65 to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. What are you, Jay? Are you really? God, you're old, dude. 22. And how many did I say? 21 of the Generation X. All right. All right. Millennials. How many millennials do we have? From 81 to 2000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, 10. Also called Generation Y. Most people like to call them millennials. There is a Y, but I don't think we have any Ys. So that'd be 2000 to like 2015, 2014, something like that. Most generations are about 15 years, somewhere 20 years, 15 to 20 years, but all of them are next door. And you know, to be honest with you, we don't know a whole lot about that generation. What? Oh, there's nobody next door. Molly's somewhere. She's a Generation Z. Yeah. Yeah, most of the youth are all millennials. All millennials, just about. Okay. Oh, they're called two different things: the Z, the Generation Z, or the I generation, like for information generation. Yeah, iPhone. You know. Okay. Okay, Renee, if you could, would you mind coming up here? Okay, I'm gonna have all of us kind of do something here, and then I'm gonna have a few people from each generation talk just a minute. What I'd like to do is I want y'all to think with me as to what shapes a generation. Okay, so there's certain things that happen, or you grow up in a situation that shape your generation. Okay. All right, so I want some general stuff as to what would shape a generation. Doesn't matter which one, but what would shape a generation. Okay, so that would be like an event. In other words, that would be what would that be? Maybe a accomplishment, maybe something like that. Yeah, put that down. Like I'm not sure what the best way to call that is. Okay. Technology. Definitely technology shapes a generation, okay? I mean, you look out through the years how technology has shaped the generation, and it's really shaping it more and more as we go, you know, further into history, into time. So definitely, and I wrote down several things, and I don't know if this is, you know, this isn't definitely a inclusive list, but okay, next one. Anybody else have another one that would shape a generation? Politics, okay, that's a good one. I didn't have that, but that's a good one. Definitely music. Yeah, I did put down music. Music definitely does. And I want to ask a question here in a minute to the silent generation. No, maybe the baby boomers, silent generation baby boomers. One of them about music. It's going to be interesting. I want to know the answer of it. Okay, what else? Wars. Okay, so you know that would probably go with the same. Nah, that'd probably be more than just shaping the generation, but wars, that would be good. What else? Okay, equal rights movement. So that would be like rebellion type stuff, or do you think, or what would you think? Yeah? Okay, what generation was that, Bruce? Okay. Y'all don't get your feelings hurt now, okay? All right, anyway, I also had religion. Okay, I think religion does shape a generation, or religious beliefs, or family. Okay, very good. Family does too. Very good. I had economy. Economics definitely shape a generation. Who said that? Civil rights movement. Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of rights going on all the way, starting with the baby boomers, and you know now we've got even more. You know, and here's something I want you to think about. I've heard this said before that whatever one generation does in moderation, the next generation is going to do in excess. Okay, and that's pretty much held true. Pretty much held true. I just have maybe one different one that I haven't. Tragedies. I did put tragedy, which would go with like a war. You know, 9/11 is definitely one that we'll talk about that shaped a generation. And you ask why that would shape a generation, because you think of the millennials. They were all, you know, they were just kids in probably an elementary type school. And, you know, this was their first experience in really fear. You know what I'm saying? That, hey, something could come get me here on my home turf. You know what I'm saying? That's really not, you know, all the wars have been fought over there. You know, until then. Yes, ma'am.
What about marriage and sexual preferences?
Yeah, and that's something that we're going to talk about. That's going to be a statistic. You know, that's helped shape a generation was people's view on marriage and stuff like that. And so that would be a good one. I put books too. I mean, I know books, it's kind of getting phased out, isn't it? I mean, people don't read books like they used to really because it's all on our phone. We can read the book on our phone. Or we just have all the information in the world right here, And so why do we need a book? But media can shape stuff, can it? Yes, ma'am. Well, I don't know that really comes into play what we're talking about today. It is a definite truth, that we need to break. But it just goes from generation to generation is what that does. Okay, so thank you, hon. Now, what I'd like to do next is I would like to hear from the silent generation, and I'm going to ask a few questions of you. So who in the silent generation would like to talk? There's 3 of them, so come on, somebody's got to talk. I might get all 3 of them. We got one right here, and then we got Miss Sharon, is it? I got to turn this on. There we go. Hello. I'm going to turn it on. Okay. All right, put it up close to your mouth, Dad. Okay.
All right, son, I will do that.
All right, Dad, whenever you were growing up, I want to know, and one thing I wanted to tell people is that, the older generation, they've seen a lot. Okay, you think about all the stuff that Dad has lived through. You didn't live through the Great Depression, but it was close, wasn't it? I mean, they were just coming out of the Great Depression.
Family did.
And so, they have lived through and seen a lot, from all the way from no technology hardly whatsoever to now abundant technology. I mean, lots of changes in the world. And so I think that we would be smart, baby boomers, Xers, millennials, to listen and learn from these people that are not going to be here very much longer. I mean, they're just not going to, that generation, especially the GI generation, what they call the greatest generation, is passing away. And there's not very many of them left. And so we would be wise to listen to those folks. Okay. Dad, I want to know if what you remember from your childhood, like something that shaped your views on stuff. In other words, do you remember anything special that
Well, I remember, of course, we lived on a farm and rode a bus to school, and I was born in 1938, so I knew about a lot of World War II because I had 3 brothers that were in the war. And I remember you had little flags on your door, however many family members were in the service. And I remember those, and I was 4, 5, 6 years old. And of course there were several wars, not in my generation necessarily, but I lived, through Korea and Vietnam and Desert Storm and what's going on now.
Right.
And but it seemed like family was the most important thing, because people were losing members of their family.
Right.
And we used to have more get-togethers with family. Somebody's birthday, we'd go fix barbecue or something. It was just, we mingled more than we do now.
Right.
And technology, well, we didn't have a TV for a good while after I was born. And we listened to the radio. Amos and Andy and Fibber McGee and Molly. Have y'all ever heard of those people?
So when you watch TV, what did you watch, Dad? I mean,
Pardon?
whenever, as a kid, whenever y'all did get a TV, what kind of TV did you watch? I mean, what was on?
Oh my goodness, let's see. Father Knows Best might have been on. I can't remember a lot of the old
old ones.
But we had an antenna, and Lubbock was the closest place to get a signal from, so it wasn't always real good, but we thought it was something.
So when you came home from school, did you have to work most of the time?
Yeah, we had a dairy, a small dairy, and so come in from school and go get the cows up, and same thing in the morning.
So before school you did some work, and after school you did some work, right?
And on Saturdays,
And Sunday, yeah.
we raised crops, we raised cotton, and we had feed that we used for the cows, that we raised feed and cut it and bundled it and all that.
Okay, I'm going to change gears on you just a little bit. So what music did you listen to whenever you were, I mean, you know, maybe even as a teenager type? What was the music?
Well, I think Elvis came on the scene
Pretty
a
close to
little
that
bit later,
time.
but pretty close to that.
So you liked Elvis, am I correct on that?
Well, yeah.
Okay,
And
all right.
I like.
Okay. All right, wait. Okay, now, what did Nanny and Papa think about Elvis?
I don't know.
You don't know? Did they like him? I mean, were they listening to Elvis also? Or you don't know? See, I wish I had the GI generation of the.
I know Daddy watched wrestling on TV, and of course he was always, you know, one of them was always getting beaten up. Of course that made him mad whenever the favorite was getting beaten up. So, anyway.
All right, let me listen. Let me let another one talk here.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Okay, ma'am. Can you tell me what you remember about your childhood, or like something that shaped your views, or anything happened that you can remember that, or just some knowledge you want to impart on us?
Well, I guess probably one of the things was...
Hold it up really close, baby.
One of the things was dirt roads. There weren't any paved roads.
No paved roads.
Yeah, lots of dirt.
Can y'all hear her?
I lived in Oklahoma, and in a small town in the Panhandle, and like you said, everything was family. We all did everything together. We played together. We worked together. We went to church together. Let's see. My folks did not like Elvis Presley.
Did you like Elvis Presley?
Yes.
Okay.
He was my heartthrob.
All right, I just want to make that clear before we go on. Do you like your kids' music?
No.
Okay, that's okay. Hey, I don't like my kids' music, so
No, I
we're
don't.
good, okay? Actually, my kids listen to a lot of the music that I listen to, believe it or not. And so, okay, let me get back. Hold on just a second, Dad. Let me ask you about church. So, what do you remember about church, or how has it changed to what in your years of
Well, church was very proper. Everybody dressed up to the hilt to go to church Sunday morning. It was a big deal.
So
It was the
suits
biggest
and
deal of
ties
the
for the
week.
men and dresses for the ladies, right?
Absolutely, and hats and gloves and
Okay.
scarves and very feminine stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
And now it's so relaxed. Yeah, it's so different.
I think we reached out quite as much as they do now.
Right. We didn't reach out like.
Whenever you
people
say
do
reach
now.
out, what do you mean? They said they don't reach out. Like, do you mean to help other people, or what do you mean reach out? Oh, okay. I see.
The world was much smaller then. Yeah. Right. It
Right.
was more local things.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Let me get one more. All right, babe. Hold it real close and tell us what you think and what you lived through and that kind of stuff.
What I lived through?
Uh-huh.
A lot of stuff. Well, when I was little, I had 3 older brothers. Family was the most important thing. My mother's twin sisters lived with us, so we had a house full of family. But holidays and special days were spent with extended family who all lived in town.
Right.
And we all got together. And I remember my Uncle Fred, they didn't have any children, so they had a little more money than the rest of us. We were poor as dirt. But anyway, he would bring the newspapers with him. We'd all eat together on Sunday at Granddaddy's house. He'd bring the newspapers so the kids could look at the funnies. And he always bought fireworks at Christmas so we could have fireworks. And family in church, my church was full of family.
Mm-hmm.
All my
So
aunts and uncles.
a lot of family went to the same church, right?
Yeah. In fact, I think we were most of the church.
Oh, really?
Yeah, extended family.
So how has it changed? How has church changed?
Well,
from your
people
time?
come and go. In those days, it was unusual to see anybody new or to lose anybody except by death.
Right.
It was
Okay.
the same group of people that you saw every week. And today, it's different folks,
Right.
which is good. And like, I don't know when he said you don't reach out, when we had a missionary come, it was somebody that was from somewhere far away.
Right.
And they were different, and it was a big deal, and all the kids would sit down in the front row, and we'd just goggle at him
Right.
because he had been to another country.
Yeah.
We
Now they
just
can
couldn't
go to another
imagine
country on
that.
their phone, can't they? And see
Yeah.
see it. Thank you very much. All right. Thank y'all very much. I sure appreciate y'all doing that. Okay, baby boomers. I'm going to pick this one right here to talk to me just a little bit. I got a bunch of baby boomers, so not everybody can talk, but I want to hear Charlie's. All right, Charlie, what do you remember? And how old are you, Charlie?
I'm 68.
So you were born in what?
1948.
1948. Okay.
Yeah.
So what all do you remember that shaped your views, or maybe a difference between you and your mom and dad? Anything like that might.
Growing up mainly in the 50s, as little, weed was in the garden. We had to go pull the weed up. Now they smoke it,
Yeah.
You get it?
Now wait a minute, Charlie. I'm gonna have to
What?
correct you just a little bit. That started with your generation, okay?
Well, actually, the first time I ever heard that was that Robert Mitchum got caught with marijuana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was like in the late 50s. So, yeah, it did.
Oh,
And,
I'm sorry. I had to throw that in there.
yeah, it started with her. Then back in the 50s, now, earlier it had to be even more extreme, but I mean, women that were pregnant, you didn't see them out in the streets.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, yeah. I mean, they didn't get out much. I don't even know if they went to church.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
if you was
interesting.
pregnant and showing,
You
just
stayed
didn't-
at home, huh?
Yeah.
Really?
You-
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
That is definitely different.
And then I remember, the people that I was around, even the Baptists, they wore the long dresses, and even in the summer, the ladies had long sleeve shirts on and things
Gloves
like
and
that,
probably
gloves,
everything, yeah.
working. And of course, the music has really changed.
So did you like Elvis?
Yeah,
Okay.
but Buddy
Was you-
Holly was.
Okay, Buddy
he
Holly
was
was
a-
more. He was the next. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was a Texan.
Okay.
so.
All right. Do you think
But-
your parents liked Buddy Holly, or I mean, did they?
They liked more of the Grand Ole Opry
I got you.
people.
Right.
Because they grew up listening Saturday night Grand Ole Opry
Right. On the radio, right?
on the radio. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I can remember the first television that I've ever watched,
Wow.
and it was black and white.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember the first color
Yeah.
one that was on shows that back then it was like the Lone Ranger, Roy Rogers.
Okay, and
Happy
like
Trail.
whenever you were a little older, maybe when you just got on your own and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What did you watch? What kind of TV
that
shows?
in high school. It was like The Fugitive. David
Okay.
Jensen.
Yeah.
They were
I
chasing
remember
him.
that, yeah.
That was in high school. So.
Okay.
American Bandstand.
American Bandstands on Saturday morning.
So every Saturday night, or a lot of Saturday nights, y'all watch that, right? You didn't DVR
That
it?
was Saturday morning.
You didn't Saturday morning.
No, you didn't.
You
no.
didn't DVR.
You missed it. You missed it.
Okay.
So, and we always went to church on Sunday night, so you didn't see the Beatles or Elvis or anything on Ed Sullivan.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
There was,
Go ahead, Melvin.
there was one thing that I remembered as they were talking about the churches and the missionaries coming. We had a lot of revivals growing up, a lot of revival services. And when our church had when they hosted a revivalist or a preacher, they stayed in our homes.
Yeah.
Always. And we always fed them, and we invited the pastor and the families and the evangelist over, and they never stayed in hotels.
Did the church have air
No aircon in churches, no. No.
So no air conditioner, huh?
No air conditioning, no cushions.
Wow, how did y'all do that? Probably a lot of people came too, didn't they? All right, are you the baby boomer generation?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Some of my, well, 1962. 1962. Yeah. One of the things I remember most, my father was an engineer for Collins Radio in the 60s, and he was also deaf. So when the problem happened with Apollo 13, my father had actually designed some of the systems that went with some of the earlier Apollo missions. And I can remember him turning the TV up all the way and sticking his ear to the speaker to be able to hear what was going on with the spaceship. And, you know, it was a really, really big deal because for the first time in history, we could actually see something outside of our planet.
Right.
And it was a major, major deal.
Wow.
The other things I remember, in the 60s, I was pretty...
You were pretty young then.
Yeah, I was pretty young, but then you get into the 70s and into the age of the disco and Donna Summer and I don't know. My family kind of clung back to Gilligan's Island and
Yeah.
Petticoat Junction and
I remember those too. That's
things of that, you know.
Andy Griffith Show, come on.
Yeah.
Beverly Hillbillies, yeah.
And my mother did not like the music that we had.
Okay, all right. I think that's pretty much a universal deal that one generation usually don't like the other generation's music. So, yes. Okay, yes. Hold it close.
One thing that I can remember growing up in a neighborhood that was, you know, lots of kids, we could stay out, you know, all afternoon, all, you know, till dark. Now, when it come dark, we were supposed
time
to
to
be
come
back.
home, huh?
Time to come home. But parents didn't have to worry about, you know, where the kids were, what they were doing, who might come snatch them up. You know, it was a carefree time. You
Right.
know, you didn't worry about danger, you know, lurking.
And what was the years that you kind of grew up, you know, in the 60s, is that right? Or, okay.
That was my child.
Your childhood was in the
childhood
60s,
was
right?
In the 60s,
Okay.
yes. And, you know, just carefree, you know.
So baby boomers, when did the trouble start? Okay, so the trouble kind of started a little bit with the baby boomers and rebellion. Okay, you know, before that, now I'm not saying no. Look, there's been bad stuff happen. I mean, there's been a lot of generations that we're not talking about, right? But as far as in America goes, rebellion started kind of a little bit with the baby boomers generation. Okay, can anybody give me an idea of why they think that? What happened there? Anybody? Okay, I didn't hear that, Jason. You're going to have to. It was Elvis? Is that what?
My parents said it was Elvis.
Well, we said music shape a generation, didn't we?
God was taken out of our schools.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that was, I can't remember exactly, I'm going to say mid-60s to late 60s.
Yeah, but nobody can hear you, so yeah.
Okay, God was taken out of our schools. You know, when I started school, I can remember us having prayer every morning, you know, a devotional and prayer every morning before we started class.
Right.
And I'm thinking it was mid-60s, late 60s.
Late 60s, late.
Right.
So, and that was partly political, right? I mean, some of that was political, so that would be another one of the things that kind of shaped our generation.
I just want to say that was 1962.
1962. Okay. Well, that's a good. Thank you very much. I'm glad y'all brought that up. Let me see what time it is. Golly, it's already time.
The real rebellion came during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
There were so many things that happened over there that was brought back. It was a totally different culture. The men, when they went over there, they were
One way?
They were one type person, and when they came back, they were totally different.
Well,
And the real rebellion, and I'm a baby boomer, that's when you begin to see major, major changes. You saw a lot of Americans that hated the Vietnam War. When I got out of the service, I told no one.
really?
Told
Wow.
no one. You didn't talk about having served, because you could be basically persecuted.
Right.
Because the first thing they wanted to know is how many kids did you kill.
Right. That's terrible.
So that's where I saw the major changes.
Okay. Hold on just a second. I want to hear from Charles. I know, how many people in this room served in Vietnam? I know Charles did. Did anybody? Okay, so I want to hear from y'all in just a second.
You know, most of the time when our soldiers go over, they come back as heroes.
Right.
When they come back from Vietnam, they were hated.
Right.
And we lost more men over there and solved not one problem.
Wow.
Except that our guys come back, and a lot of people just felt like they had done everything wrong.
Right. I wonder if that was a direct judgment from taking God out of schools. Really and truly from. I guess we won the Korean War, right? Would y'all say that? Would that be true that we? So really we didn't, huh? Okay, so from World War II past, we really hadn't won a war, have we? I mean, be honest with you. I mean, you could say maybe, no, we didn't win that either. So maybe that started it right there. Hold on, Dad. Okay, Charles, can you shed us some light on Vietnam much?
Yeah, I can. Actually, I was so young when I went in that actually I turned 18 in Vietnam, and I did 2 tours over there. But I was so young at that time that it was later on that I really realized what happened. I just did what I was told at that time, you know. And so, but actually, basically what happened is the government turned their back on the soldiers. It became a political war. The people were making a lot of money off of it, of making, helicopters and all kind of things like that. And so basically, but basically, we actually, when we in our base camp, which we traveled out a lot, was out in the field a lot, but when we was in our base camp, they would be times that we could see the Vietnam people. They would be out surveying. Well, they just let them survey, But we knew when they were out surveying, it was just going to be a few nights before we were going to be martyred. And we knew that, and we were watching for that. But nobody did nothing about it, And so that's kind of what it was. It got to a point, I was in from 66 and then got out in 68. But when it was to a point in there to where that it was not to win, it was just to hold, and it got worse and worse and worse, And so actually the government, and I think that's still going on today in our military, and that's the reason a lot of our soldiers are so discouraged with what's going on, because the government's not really backing them and going in to win. And that made a huge change. And then, like you say, as God is taken out of things, well, it just gets worse and worse, and that's what was happening.
Jay, would you like to add anything to that, or?
Let's see. I went over in October of 71, and if you remember, the war ended in February of 72. So I was only there 4 months, in the last 4 months. And then I went to Thailand 8 months after that. But by the time I got back to the States, so much of the hatred and the talking about the killing of the babies and everything had sort of subsided, because people saw, okay, the war is over. But there was still that hint of disgust and hate for soldiers that they would go do that, even after the war ended. And I got out in 78, which was 6 years after that, and you could still see and hear a little bit of that 6 years later. It really devastated the American military, the people's view of what they was doing.
Wow, that's big right there. It really is. Okay, hold on just a second. Let me get her real quick.
I was just going to ask, wasn't that a time whenever the
soldiers were given a lot of drugs and they come back on drugs and had to get off. They were given.
He said drug abuse in Vietnam was unbelievable. So. Go ahead, Charles.
Okay. One of the things, I want you to remember back in the Old Testament a lot of time, they got on this deal about killing children and all this kind of stuff, which that is a terrible thing, but that's part of war. If you remember back in the Old Testament, at times Christ sent, God sent his people in to do something, and he was to kill them all, kill all the animals, kill all the kids, kill all the women, kill all the men, and there's things that God hates, and so just remember that as you think about, that there's innocent people and there's civilians and so forth in wartime that get killed. It's just a matter, it's just going to happen.
All right. Okay.
One of the things that people that weren't in Vietnam come back about all the baby killing, and that was a real big issue. When you were in Vietnam, and I wasn't in the battle area, but I was in intelligence, so I was getting reports back from different things. And one of the greatest fears of the American soldier in Vietnam was children, because those children had been trained to be self-made bombs. They'd been trained to kill. And so here you are, and this is why I think a lot of the drugs is an issue in Vietnam. Those guys had to go into battle, first off, not knowing who their enemy is, because they all looked alike. They could be a farmer by day and Charlie by night. But the kids and the people, you didn't know who to trust. And a lot of people, a lot of Americans lost their lives because they didn't want to take action against a small child, and that small child walked right in the middle of them and blew themselves up, thereby killing them. So, it's real easy to sit 2,000 miles away and pass judgment on what is happening in the military. But unless you're in it, unless you're in the middle of it, I just cringe when I hear people in the military that get brought up on charges because of something that happened. And it always sounds worse when it's in the news.
And, that's come around because, Desert Storm, but now, in Iraq, the same thing's happening. They would, strap bombs to these kids, and they'd walk out there. And that's got to be tough on those soldiers to try to have to kill one of them kids.
I just wanted to say one thing about that. Of course, I came from the loyal generation. And does anybody remember the Phil Donahue show? Oh, I love Phil Donahue. I watched him every day. And he had Jane Fonda on there one day. And I was watching and listening, but there was a young soldier in the audience who stood up and presented his case, much as you have, the soldier's point of view, and they just humiliated him. Wow. They tore him down, and I never watched Phil Donahue again.
Wow. Y'all think about this, how things have changed. How things have changed that, the information that he got was probably by word of mouth, some by the radio, very little by TV. Now, everybody in here probably has a cell phone, I bet. We have information about all that stuff. Our kids have it too, at the tip of their fingers, you know what I'm saying? And so you can see how things have just accelerated.
I just wanted to say that the silent generation should be changed to the forgetful generation.
That's probably true, Dad. Okay, I am out of time. I really thought I was going to get to more than this, but it's been really good. We're at 7:37 right now. So I still got the Xers to go, and I still got the millennials, which I got a song for the millennials that I really want to play. Y'all want to do that? I think it's really great. Chris wants to do it. Okay, millennials, this is for y'all, okay? And now I want you to remember, millennials, we're making fun of you just a little bit, okay? But who's really the problem? Generation X is who raised Generation Millennial, right? And so I guess it's really a knock on us. So y'all enjoy this little old video right here.
ticka-ting, ticka-ting, ding, ding, ding. There he sits inside your local coffee shop, sporting a main bun and facial hair. Somehow he believes, although he has no job, that by his 30s he will be a millionaire. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. She posts lots of selfies on her Instagram with a quote that's inspirational. Hopes to change the world while wearing yoga pants, armed with her dreams and knowledge of essential oils. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. 27 years old, trying to make it on their own. Maybe start by leaving your parents home, but maybe we're just wrong. Criticism isn't easy for their ears. They feel like they know most everything. See, they grew up with undeserved confidence, 'cause they got trophies just for participating. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. In a couple of years, we will have to pass the torch. In a couple of years, they will be in charge, and one will be our president. Oh no. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A-L. Please pray for millennials.
Don't get mad. We love y'all, okay? You know, I have some. Oh, he said that's probably the first truth they've seen in a long time. Well, like I said, you know, whenever I saw that, I laughed too, you know. And of course, both my boys are millennials. And but you know, when I got to thinking, I thought, you know, that's kind of on me, isn't it? I raised them, you know. And then I thought, okay, well, then my parents raised me, so that's the baby boomers. They, you know, anyway. So you can keep going, right? But you know, I've got some information that we'll share in the next time I teach. I've got to work next Wednesday, so I'm not going to be here. So we'll continue this 2 weeks from now, okay? But I've got some information that, you know, there's a missing generation in church, and that generation is the millennials. You know, there's some pretty stout information out there saying, you know, how we're losing that generation in church, okay? They're leaving the church by a lot. And so that's one reason why I think this was made. He said, you know, there's a lot of churches that are targeting millennials because, y'all think about it, in a few years, right, in a couple of decades, they're going to be the ones leading. They're going to, you know, so, I mean, it's pretty important that we reach that generation with the gospel. And so, you know, they don't have much desire for it, you know. One of the neat things about that, though, is that for you millennials that are here, millennials that are in church are like one of the strongest groups. They know their Bible more, so that's a good thing. I mean, there is some strong millennials out there that, because I think they have in it that they want to succeed, you know, and they want to be the best. And so the ones that are committed are committed. You know what I'm saying? They know their Bible. They know the Bible, according to some of these surveys, better than we do. You know, better than the other generations. But anyway, so that's we'll hear a little bit more from the Xers and then I'll share a whole bunch of information. I've got a whole ton of information about influences and about each generation. You know how they look at different things like core values. And I know I'm taking up the whole time, y'all. Attributes, you know, the goods and the bads of each generation. And what I think that'll do is that'll help us know each other and understand, you know, whenever you understand where somebody's coming from, you know, just like we heard tonight from some of our elders. Now you can have a little bit more understanding of why, you know, Charles and why Jay and why Jimmy, why they think the way they do.